Hi, this is Rick for EDU Mobile. Now we're going to talk about storyboards. So let's get started with this. Storyboards are actually a pretty big topic, and we're going to be dealing with things about storyboards for the next few weeks or units of the course. Storyboard, again, like a nib file, is an XML representation, but a storyboard is a representation of all of the views in an app, as well as the transitions that exist between them. So unlike an XML file, which only represents one view, unlike a nib file, which only represents one view, a storyboard is an XML file that represents multiple views and their transitions. Storyboards, like nib files, are created in Interface Builder in very much the same way as we create a nib. Every view in a storyboard usually corresponds to the .view property of a single view controller. However, in some cases, the views in a storyboard can represent multiple different views of a view controller, and we'll talk about that a little bit later as well. Transitions between the view controller's views and the corresponding view controllers that own them, these are called segues. So the storyboard, again, is represented as a single XML file, like a nib, that contains scenes, and that's a key word here. A storyboard scene corresponds to a single view and its view controller. These, like nibs, are compiled into views at runtime. But because a storyboard represents all of the views in an app, or multiple storyboards can represent all of the views in an app, a storyboard gives a better overall big picture view, a better representation of what's going on in our entire app, especially in larger apps with many, many views. Segues, again, are the transitions between views and their view controllers. So a segue represents either a relationship between two view controllers or a transition from one view controller to another. So what's the difference? Well, a relationship segue is used when a single view controller owns or contains one or more view controllers. This happens in a tab bar controller, for instance, and we'll talk about that and see how that happens. That's really the only place within the template code, certainly, that relationship segues occur. Most of the time, we're dealing with transition segues. These are segues such as the type of modal or push. Custom is also a transition segue, but right now, let's just think of these as modal segues, where one view controller pushes another view controller on top of itself, or a push segue, which exists in a navigation controller, such as you might see in the classic-looking app where you have a table view, a list of things, and you tap one of those things, and another view controller is pushed on top of the table view. So these are used when the user interaction itself on one view controller causes a second view controller to display its view. So these transitions, segued view controllers are not instantiated until the segue fires. This is very important. We can't talk to a view controller until its segue has been fired. So we need some way to know when that's fired, and there is a delegate method. And this belongs to every view controller. In other words, every view controller can potentially be a delegate for this method for segues. And this is called prepare for segue sender. And it is fired when a segue is about to occur. And here we can talk to the destination view controller. The delegate is the view controller that's being displayed before the segue. So the view controller that's currently being displayed will override prepare for segue sender and do something with that in preparation for firing the segue. The segue parameter of this method is of type UI storyboard segue, and that UI storyboard segue has a property called destination view controller, and that points to the new view controller that's about to be pushed or modally displayed. Now, we have to cast this. In order to talk to that view controller, we will cast this to the actual type of the view controller, because that parameter comes across, or that property comes across, as a UI view controller instance In other words, a vanilla view controller. We'll talk about all of that stuff when we need to do this. The sender parameter is the control that actually fires the segue. So if we have a button that displays a new controller, a new view controller's view, then that button is the sender. That sender property comes across as an ID, and we need to cast it to the type of whatever the control is that sent the segue. Thank you very much.